talking about what makes you successful in life, relationships, and business. It's Jump, Pivot, and Roll with Shannon Stiles and Rachel Murphy.
So I have a question for you. Do you know that person on Facebook who is always positive, always optimistic? No matter what's going on in the world, they're the ones that are shining the light on the positive things going on in the world. Well, we have one of those individuals in here today with us. Our guest today is an incredible individual, and she always is out there just lifting other people up. And she just started her journey, so we thought it would be kind of cool to bring her on and just talk to her about how she, well, we're just going to talk to her about her journey. How's that? You're listening to Jump, Pivot, and Roll. I'm Shannon Stiles.
And I'm Rachel Murphy.
And today, let us introduce you to the one and only Miss Tanya Stahl.
Hi. Hi, Shannon. Hi, Rachel.
Welcome. Thank you so much for being on with us today. We really appreciate
my pleasure.
it. Yeah. So let's tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, because I think that you have a wonderful story. And I think that you're very relatable to a lot of people, because a lot of individuals are going through difficulties through COVID and have found themselves in a position where they're no longer able to do what they did before COVID happened.
Yep.
And I'm going to let you jump in and share your story with us.
Okay. Well, COVID started back in March. I was out of work for 2.5 months. Decided to take the plunge into network marketing. I had been in it a little bit, but decided just to go all in. Since I had all this time, it gave me a good starting point. So do you want me to go back farther?
Well, yeah, I want to hear, because one of the things that you said is, I'm 44 and I'm just starting. So I want to know, what motivated you to take that jump? Because that's a huge leap of faith, and that
It is.
had to have been a little scary.
And I do want to point out before you say this, when you say I'm 44 and just now taking that jump, honestly, I think that's about the age when most people take the jump to find their calling.
Yes.
I mean, it sounds old to us just because we feel old, right?
Don't.
I really feel like that is the age where you're mature enough to be comfortable, and you've grown a lot, right?
Yes.
To be comfortable enough that you trust yourself and you trust taking those different steps.
Yes. Well, my self-development journey started way before that. And I feel like you have to work on yourself before you start to try to work on a business or your relationships or your job.
Yeah.
You have to focus on yourself. So that for me maybe started a couple years ago, and started slowly reading books, watching videos, anything I could get my hands on, just to learn to be a better person. And you both talk about self-care a lot.
Yes.
And that's something that just recently I learned, that I adopted.
I am so glad. I know. So glad, because that is a game changer. So I want to ask, before you go on any further, what is the one book or video or mentor that you listened to that was just your one? I'm always curious about that, because we always have one that just speaks to us. So what was your one?
Well, for mentors, I listen to Bob Proctor. I don't listen to many others, to be honest. I try to diversify and get information from lots of different sources, but that's where I started. He's an author, a speaker, a motivator, and he's been doing it for close to 60 years.
Wow.
He's 85 years old. He's 85 years old and still going. So I read one of his books, but one that he always refers to and where he started his journey, a man gave him a book called Think and Grow Rich.
Oh,
by
one of my
Napoleon Hill.
favorites.
Yeah.
I know you know what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm reading it now for the third time.
Oh, yeah.
You get new things. As you grow as a person, you can read something as many times as you want. If you're still growing, you will pick up new things and grow even more.
Well, and not only do you pick up new things and grow even more, what I find is that you have adopted things as your own, and now you have become that individual. It's no longer something that you have to learn. It's something that you are.
You become.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
You become what you think about.
Yeah.
Right. And then as you do that, it seems like you're ready to take that next step that maybe you missed the first time you were reading it because
Yes.
it was so overwhelming that you're like in the middle of it all going, okay, how do I take this all in? So I agree. Rereading those books that move you, huge.
So on Bob Proctor, was it the ABCs of Success? Was that the one that you read, or The Art of Living?
It's called You Were Born Rich.
Gotcha.
Oh,
Yeah.
You Were Born Rich.
Yep.
check that out.
I think you can get a free download on his website. It's Proctor Gallagher Institute.
Okay.
Yep.
Because he partnered with Sarah Gallagher 15 years ago. And she's a beautiful, beautiful person. She was a securities attorney, very successful, but she was missing something. And she wasn't real happy with what she was doing. She wanted to provide a different service. And she saw Bob Proctor, wanted to do what he does and teach what he taught. And so that she said, I'm going to be his partner, and that's what she did.
That's awesome.
And so
Talk
it's
about
good to
visualizing, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I like to listen to her too. And it's they have lots of good information on the website and lots of YouTube videos, and I just soaked all that up. When I found out who he was, and he was in the movie called The Secret.
I love
The
that movie.
Secret.
Yes.
I've watched that several times.
Yeah.
Always
Papa,
pick up new
Papa
things.
threw me off though. On The Secret? Oh no, I was thinking the Shack. The Secret is the manifestation. I
Yes.
love that book. Yes.
That's really where I was introduced to the law of attraction.
Okay.
And it was a
Yeah.
friend of mine that I worked with. Her name is Sandy. And she kept bugging me. You have to read this book or watch the movie for months. And I said, oh, I will. And she's always talking positive. And she would always give me little tips, little affirmations. Okay. And I kept saying, yeah, I'll read it, I'll watch it, And oh my goodness, when I watched it, and my husband was at work. I watched it, and I was, at first you don't know whether to buy into it. But by the time I got done with it, I said, this is going to work.
Yeah.
If you work it, it'll work.
Right.
So I started thinking, what would my husband think? He was raised in...
Yeah, isn't that funny? We do that. We look and we worry about what everybody else thinks.
Well, especially our partners, because we don't want them to look at us and go, oh, I think my wife's just lost her mind.
My husband
right.
thought, my husband told everyone I lost my mind.
Your husband did, yes.
I mean, he told everybody,
Anyone who would
she's
listen.
gone insane. She's spending money left and right. She's not thinking clearly. But the funny thing was, we are thinking clearly. We're actually, for the
Yes.
first time in our lives, seeing clearly. So I completely understand what you're saying. And I'm sure a lot of the listeners who are just getting into self-development feel the same way.
Yeah. So what did he say? What'd you do? I want to hear this.
Well, I was thinking, okay, should I tell him about it? Should I get him to watch it? Should I keep my mouth shut? Okay. He grew up in church. His dad was a minister. And I grew up in church also. And you kind of just, there was none of that being taught in the church. I think it is more now. But I just thought, he's going to think this is crazy. It's new age. It's not biblical. Which, by the way, it is.
It is totally
very
biblical.
much.
That's where most of the quotes come from, are the Bible.
Yes.
They're
So-
manipulated a bit, but that's where they come from.
Right before he walked in the door, I didn't know he was home yet. Right before he walked in the door, I said, I'm just going to say, look, keep an open mind. I want you to watch something. He said, okay. I emphasized, keep an open mind.
Yeah.
I want you to watch this. And he was open. He was open to it. And he said, I believe every word that I heard.
That is
And
amazing.
I was dumbfounded. I just didn't. We'd never talked about anything like that. And just knowing from how I grew up in the church, I assumed that he would think the opposite. I thought he would think it was crazy.
Yeah,
But
I mean-
no, he's totally on board from the beginning.
people that aren't involved in it, they believe it's some type of cult.
Exactly.
And
Well,
it is
because
in a
they
way.
No.
Yeah, you can
I
have
mean-
good cults too.
Well, I was gonna say, I think that's the wrong word for it. I think that as we grow and as we become more, our minds start to expand and we start to see things a little
Yes.
differently. Like, I totally believe in the law of attraction, but I believe that my God is the one who creates that along
Yes.
with the universe. They work hand in hand. He says, knock and it shall be opened. Ask and ye shall receive.
Yes.
How much clearer does he have to get?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Law of attraction. So that must have been really exciting to all of a sudden have your life partner going, yeah.
It was. He said, there's this verse in the Bible and this verse and this verse. And I just guess I thought, well, I never saw them that way.
Right.
And ask and ye shall receive. I don't know why.
Well,
But it's just
I think
sometimes those verses you just memorize to memorize.
exactly,
and
and
you're
we're
not
kind of
living them.
programmed to think that we have to earn these things, and we don't.
Yes, that's right.
We don't.
We
Right.
have to work for them, but we have to believe in them before the work starts to make it happen. And
Right.
I think what's amazing is you had a change of mindset.
Yes.
That's what happened, and he did as well, which how lucky on, right away for you guys to be on that same page.
Yep. I'm very, very blessed. He was on board. He's been on board ever since and very supportive.
Keep going.
And he reads some of the books along with me, and we discuss it. And when we all sort of go through cycles.
Mm-hmm.
Not just women. Everybody goes through cycles. So for a couple
We're just
days,
extra special.
you're on cloud 9 and you're happy and everything's going well, but then things just go down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so your mood goes down a little bit. You're on a lower vibration. And it's nice to have someone who says, did you think about it this way? Or
Yeah.
what's going through your mind and how can we bring you back up?
So, we talk about being intentional all the time, that you have to be intentional and you have to pay attention to these things and the triggers that bring you down. And it sounds like your husband is the one that recognizes it, and he's the one that kind of pulls you back up, right?
We've been married for 23 years.
Oh, good
So
for you.
he-
You look so young.
Thank you. We know each other pretty well.
Mhm.
So, how your husband will come home and say, what's wrong? I used to get very upset with him when he said that. He genuinely wanted to know what was bothering me, and I hadn't said a word. And I'd say, it makes me more upset the more you ask that. He said, well, I'm not going to quit asking until you tell me. So he knows if I'm up or if I'm down.
That's awesome.
And it goes both ways.
So when COVID happened, I'm assuming he saw that you hit it down.
For a short time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for a short time. But I looked at it as an opportunity. The world is changing.
Yeah.
Our city is changing. Our country is changing. Change is not a bad thing.
You're right.
Obviously, this is not a good thing that we're going through. And there's lots of bad things that we go through. We can turn them into opportunities. So and I just thought, I need a change. So I did it.
And this is a great place to take a break and hear a word from our sponsors. You're listening to Jump, Pivot, and Roll with Rachel Murphy, Shannon Stiles, and our guest, Tanya Stoll. We'll be back in just a moment. You don't want to miss this because this is where it gets good. This is how to pivot. We'll be back in just a moment.
The Jump, Pivot, and Roll podcast is brought to you in part by the Shannon Stiles Allstate Insurance Agency. Just as you take that next step in life, you need to take that next step in protecting yourself, your car, your home, and your family. Reach out to Shannon at 316-773-9864 or shoot her an email at sstiles@allstate.com. Also by Simplify My Life ICT. Is your life cluttered? Do you need help with organization? Rachel Murphy can help. Check out Rachel's services online at simplifymylifeict.com or reach out to Rachel at simplifymylifeict@gmail.com. To keep up with the Jump, Pivot, and Roll podcast, make sure to follow them on their Facebook page. Just go to facebook.com/Jump, Pivot, and Roll. There you can find content, podcasts of the show, discussions with Rachel and Shannon, and more. Plus, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on any of your favorite podcasting sites, from iTunes and Spotify, Google Play to TuneIn, and right on their Podbean site at jumppivotandroll.podbean.com. And for all the exclusive content, make sure to become a VIP member on their Patreon site. Just go to patreon.com/Jump, Pivot, and Roll.
And welcome back to Jump, Pivot, and Roll. I'm Shannon Stiles.
And I'm Rachel Murphy.
And today our special guest is Tanya Stoll, and she's sharing her aha moment and how she used COVID. She didn't let it be something that happened to her. She let it be something that happened for her. And she saw it as an opportunity to step into your calling, right?
Yes. Step into my calling. I had always wanted to be in business for myself in a large company, but for myself. And so network marketing afforded me that opportunity. And again, my husband's totally on board and totally supportive. So I made that change during the time that lots of businesses were closed.
Yeah.
Lots of people were out of work. Some have went back. Some have lost their jobs permanently or lost their business permanently. So I thought, well, I no longer want to depend on someone else for my livelihood. I didn't want to continue to make someone else's dreams come true while I put mine on the back burner.
I love that.
I think that's a definition
Absolutely
of entrepreneur.
love that. Yes.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So
That's
that was
awesome.
a dream for me. Thought about it when I was younger. But again, it's the self-development. And in that, you learn what you want out of life. You can set goals and make a plan to get there.
So what were some of the fears that you had when you pivoted and you made this change in your life?
Well, like you said earlier, you think about what other people are going to think. I dismiss that pretty quickly now, more maybe than I used to. And it's not because I'm being selfish, but I want what God has for my life and my family's life.
That's beautiful.
So to a certain point, I just put that out of my mind.
Yeah.
It's more important what I think of myself and how I feel about myself than what other people do.
I think Brene Brown says it best. She taught me this in her Daring Greatly, which if you have not picked up that book, listeners, please pick up that book. It is so, so good, even if you listen to it on audio. She was talking about how when somebody doesn't agree with something she's doing or, has an opinion, she opens up her wallet, which in it is a very small little piece of paper, and on it lists 8 names. And those are the 8 people that she cares about their opinion. And that's where it is.
Yeah.
And I love that because their opinion should not cost you your dreams.
Exactly.
So is it that she cares about their opinion or that she trusts their
Both.
opinion?
Both.
Because, people say things about me and I don't care because I don't trust their opinion. I don't trust who they are, right?
It's both.
Yeah.
I mean, read the book, Shannon.
I have.
I'm going to have to get that
I have
one.
read the
I
book.
haven't read that one.
It touched you a lot more than it touched me. There were some great parts in it, but we have different love languages and speak, they speak to us differently.
Things speak to everybody differently.
Exactly.
Yes.
We all have a different background, different mindset at times, different goals. And that's why I like to read books more than once, because your mindset changes a little bit. You get a little more out of it, and you grow as a person.
So what's been your favorite book? What's been your biggest, just...
Besides Think and Grow Rich, which was written in the 1930s.
Yeah,
Napoleon Hill. Excellent.
Brilliant book. And you have to read that more than once. You have to.
Yeah, and every single time you nailed that, because every time you read it, you pick up more and you're like, oh, but I believe that's because you've leveled up. Mm-hmm. And now that's the portion that will make sense, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's another one called Psycho-Cybernetics. I believe it was written by Maxwell Maltz. Okay. And it talks about the mind and mindset. And he was a plastic surgeon. And he started to notice that some people's self-esteem raised after having plastic surgery and others didn't.
Yeah.
And he wanted to know why. So he started studying the mind, and that talks about a lot about self-image.
Huh, that sounds like a
So
good
I like
one.
that. I like that one too, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a great one because everyone knows what plastic surgery is, right? You can relate to that. Not that we've all had it. I wish I had sometimes, but everybody knows what it is. And I love books that use great analogies.
Yes.
It just makes it so real to me.
Yeah. Well, we all have something that we don't like about ourselves.
Yes. Oh, yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
And he took people who sometimes they had an accident or they were born with a deformity. Other times they just wanted a new nose. But he was curious as to why some of them did not like themselves more. So it's all about the study of the mind. We study our bodies. We know all our body parts, what their functions are. We don't bother to study how the mind works.
That's
Yeah.
brilliant.
You're right.
That's a brilliant insight.
You're right. It's funny because I've started taking a different approach when it comes to things that bother me about myself. Instead of complaining about it, I make them unique. I'm holding up my hands right now, and one example is, so I have nice, beautiful, long nails, and I had one break off. And these are my real nails. So instead of what I always did in the past is I'd start over from scratch and I'd make a little nub, right? But I like long nails. So instead, I made this one very unique, and I changed it to a different color.
I love that.
And I highlighted that it is unique. And you know what? It's it's a reminder to me now that it's growing, and it's okay for it to be like this while it's growing. And I don't have to lower my standards of what I like because it's not quite there. I can just let it be unique and let it grow with us. And it's because of self-development that I'm able to do that, because I promise you, before I cared about what other people thought. And I was so worried about, well, what are they going to think when I'm spending all this money to go fly off to Miami to go to this conference, but you know what? That's what makes us unique, is that we do care about our personal growth. So yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
I try to teach my daughter that you don't have to be like everybody else.
Right.
So you're talking about your nails. This nail is different. Why do they all have to be the same?
Yeah. It's the story that we tell ourselves, right?
Yes.
Well, and what I really like with your nail analogy is that it stands out. It stands out.
Yes.
It stands out more than the ones that are beautifully manicured. And it probably brings you more happiness to look at that red one than it does all 9 of your perfect nails, because of what it means to you.
It brings so much happiness, so much joy to me, because I know it's growing.
Right.
And, progress equals happiness, right?
Progress,
It's not perfection. Yeah. So I love that. So you decided to take the jump, right? You went into network marketing. What was the first adversity that you had to face, or hiccup that you had to face? And follow up to that, how did you handle it? Of course.
It's a new thing. New things are scary.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have to put yourself out there if you want anything to change. You got to step outside your comfort zone. So that was the very first struggle. Okay, this is new. I'm just learning how to do it. It's sort of on-the-job training, network marketing is. So that was my first struggle. Okay, how do I, as I'm building my business, step outside of my comfort zone?
Yeah.
To do that. So sometimes it's baby steps, and I'm still taking those little baby steps outside of my comfort.
But again, that's progress. So you
yes.
can find joy in that because you are progressing.
Yes.
It's when you stop
Yes.
that the problem.
Never stop.
And I
That's
have
right.
to say, I love it because you're getting comfortable in the uncomfortable, which is like my thing this year. I love watching people get uncomfortable because beautiful things are about to happen.
Yes. You know that you've already changed if you're willing to do that, to take a leap of faith and step out of your comfort zone. But you also know there are changes that are going to happen when you do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's a nice thing that you have the personal development behind you, because a lot of people who don't have that personal development, and there might be someone listening to this today, but a lot of people that don't have that personal development just feel kind of like chaos, right?
Yeah.
They don't realize that they're learning and growing and that they're being molded in that time. And that is probably the most beautiful time, that at some point when you'll never arrive, but when you get through that, that you'll look back and you'll go, wow, I really was strong during that time.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I think so many new people in this new, growing and personal growth, they get so stuck on the failures, the no's, the I didn't do it good enough, I didn't reach this level in networking. And then they concentrate so much on that, not realizing that oh my God, celebrate you. You just stepped out. You just did
Yes.
it. You just took a chance and you failed. Celebrate, because now you know how to do it even better or who to ask next. And I really hope our listeners hear this. It is not only okay to fail, it is awesome to fail if you don't give up.
Fail forward, right?
Right.
That's
So-
exactly what I was
Yeah.
going to say.
And I was going to ask you, how do you handle those times when you do? I say learn a lesson. I mean, it doesn't have to be a failure; it can be a lesson. But how do you handle that?
Take it just like that, like a lesson.
Yeah,
All of the great achievers, I'll say, all the richest people in the world, all the great athletes, great musicians, they all failed.
yeah,
They wouldn't have got where they were if they hadn't failed, because you have to step out to fail and you have to fail to succeed.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm writing that down on my mirror.
you have to step out,
To
Did I say in the-
fail.
and you have to say it again
Fail to succeed.
to succeed. Yeah, I wanted to make sure I had it right. So, yeah, that is really nice. I like that.
Oh, I feel like I've had way more
Put it in.
failures than successes.
Congratulations.
Exactly. I think we should celebrate failures, because if you had a lot of failures, that means you got up a lot of times. And that is the secret to success, is getting up.
Yep.
Do you know
think it is.
how many times Thomas Edison attempted
yes.
to create the light bulb?
Yeah, and I love what he says after he finally created it, and he was interviewed by someone in the press, and they said, how does it feel to fail? Now, the numbers are a little skewed. It could be 2,999. It could be 9,999.
Right.
And do you know what his response was?
No, I don't.
I didn't fail 9,999 times. I found 9,999 ways that wouldn't work.
There you go.
And I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
That's all it's about, right? Is getting up and taking that next step regardless. And
Yes.
while you were talking, I was thinking about, there are so many people, and right now a lot of people may have to face this, who have been or who may have to face bankruptcy due to what's going on. And I've known some people who have had to do that, right? And they let it demoralize themselves. Now, I'm not saying go bankrupt, of course, but if you get to that position, I think that the better way to do it, because almost all the successful people, you were talking about all the successful people have failed. Well, the majority of them have failed in that area, and they've gone bankrupt.
Yes.
And the lesson there is that they didn't focus their attention on money. They didn't learn about money, about how it works, and that is what failure does for you. It opens your eyes to where you need to focus your attention
Yes.
next.
I could have done this differently, or could have done this differently. Not beating yourself up,
Exactly.
but learning that lesson for the future.
So have you had some of those aha moments in this? I know this is a fairly
Oh,
new
sure.
journey. So what's been your favorite one? Put you on the spot here.
You are putting me on the spot. Sometimes in sales, you get a little jumpy. You jump the gun.
Mm-hmm.
And quite literally, we should be building relationships. That's a lesson I learned early on. And if you want someone to do something that you want, you have to make them feel important.
You're right.
So that's something, I'm still learning it.
Oh,
but
you're
that's
such a support to so many. Like, I love the cheerleader that you are to other people and their dreams. The cheerleader you are to
Yeah.
us, to me individually, to the WOW group. I mean, you are amazing, and I love that you're about building that relationship, not closing that sale. And it's one of the reasons why I have so much respect for you.
I appreciate that.
I appreciate that.
I agree 100%. That's how I started off the show. You are one of those individuals that when I see your posts, I just automatically smile because I know it's something that is going to make me smile. I know it's something that is going to add value to my life.
Yes.
And kudos
That makes me so happy.
Yeah.
That's why I put it there. Even if I don't have 1,000 people see it, but I have a handful that makes them smile.
It only takes one.
I like to see posts that make me smile.
That's right.
So.
That's right.
And here's the thing that I think a lot of people miss, especially on Instagram and social media, is everybody wants this big following, right? I want this big following because these big numbers mean that I'm super successful and everybody's watching me. And that is so wrong because most of those big numbers have such small reactions and those people have no relationships. Yeah, they have the numbers, but they don't have 40 people commenting on the post because they actually care and want to be involved. So I think the way you were doing it, you could not be doing it more perfect.
So let me ask you a question. I know Rachel's talked about books and things like that, mentors, which is amazing. I don't think you can reach success without having mentors, personally. But what is, I know you've listened to us before, and you know my go-to is, well, I have two. One, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Amen.
And the second one is, everything in life happens for you, not to you. Do you have a quote that just really, when you start getting to the point where, you know, you're feeling yourself come down a little, do you have a go-to quote that you just remind yourself of and it helps lift you back up?
That is a good question.
While you're thinking about it,
lots of them.
what is yours, Rachel?
Well,
While
mine's
she's
getting
thinking about it.
uncomfortable in the or getting comfortable in the
Comfortable with it.
uncomfortable. I absolutely love and live that.
Yeah.
You know what I always try to remind myself when those negative thoughts creep in or I'm around people that kind of bug me? Not that the people
We all
bug me.
know the people. Come on.
Just saying.
Don't be thinking she's judging. We all have somebody that we feel that way about. She's just honest enough to say it.
Those negative people.
Yeah.
And you're not comfortable around them.
Right.
But
You know what? Think about before we did personal development, when we might have been that negative person.
yes.
We weren't comfortable around the positive people either. So
That's
that
right.
goes both ways,
It's just
right?
a mindset.
Yeah,
You're
it
on
is.
a different vibration.
You are.
I just try to remind myself that you become what you think about.
Yes,
I love that.
you're right.
I love that.
You're right. So you, along with a lot of us, believe, like to the core of our being, that your thoughts can be manifested. In any of your thoughts, you can manifest into reality.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I have had a blast having you on. It's
Thank
been
you.
so fun to learn about your journey.
A lot of fun.
And I really look forward to what's ahead for you, because I see great things in your horizon.
Thank you.
And speaking of that, how do people find out what you're doing? How do they find you? I do want you to talk just very briefly on what it is that you're doing and how they find you. And then we're going to give you guys a challenge.
Okay. You can find me on Facebook. I do use my real name. I don't use my company name as of right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to build a personal brand and want people to follow me, not a company. So you can find me on Facebook. I'm not on Instagram yet. That's the best way to find me, and reach out, send me a message. I reply usually pretty quickly.
And what is it you're doing? Because you've talked about networking, but what is it that you're doing?
So network marketing is a business model that allows ordinary people to sell products, also build a team of other people who sell products, and earn commissions off of that.
And what is your product?
We have nutritional products, nutritional sprays, CBD. We have hair care products coming out very soon. Makeup line.
Very nice.
We also have essential oils.
All things I love.
All good things.
That's
All things
awesome.
I love.
So real quick, if you could go back to your younger self and you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would that advice be?
Well, what I just said, you become what you think about. Act like the person you want to become. I was acting like the person that I had been my whole life. And I didn't really like that person. So that's what I would say to my 20-something.
Love it.
Powerful.
Love it. Yes.
Powerful.
And Rachel, always we have to have the challenge. What is that challenge?
I don't know. What is the challenge you're going to give our listeners?
Well, you could have at least set her up and told her you were going to put her on the spot.
No,
Hello.
No, she knows.
Okay.
She does.
knows.
She does.
Do something every day, whether it's in the morning, during your morning routine, or before you go I like to read before I go to sleep. Read something. Watch a video about something that speaks to you, that breathes life into you. It could be the Bible, it could be another book, it could be YouTube videos. Do something every day to improve yourself.
I love it. You know, life doesn't always come with directions. Sometimes you have to jump, pivot, and roll. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe, share it, and leave us your thoughts. Until next time, thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys.